Hi, I'm Josh Caplan, a Principal Program Manager on the Azure Synapse team. And today I'm going to go over Azure Synapse Analytics and how it can be used with AI and Microsoft Business applications. We're going to review what Synapse Analytics is, and then how to build a complete AI to BI solution. Finally, we'll go over Synapse Link and how that can be used with Microsoft Business application data. Data is growing every day in volume, velocity, and variety. Data is coming out of everything. Today's customers use structured and unstructured data in batch or real-time modes, and the data sizes vary from GBs to ZBs. The solutions that were used until now cannot address these new dimensions. Data is currency of all new digital information. It is what drives organizations, makes data accessible to everyone, useful to everyone, and actionable to everyone. Direct link between business performance and decisions based on high quality data is driving digital disruption and forcing every company and industry to reimagine themselves, reinventing how businesses engage with their customers, their business processes, and how they take advantage of data and intelligence. Both data science and business analytics view the world in very different ways. Data science has kind of grown out of data lakes. It's big data, those experimentations over semi-structured data with fast exploration. Where business analytics kind of grew out of data warehouses, these very relational worlds. They have these kind of proven security and privacy, dependable performance, and just kind of these proven methods of working with data. And up until now, you've kind of had to choose. Different technologies have kind of grown out of these different areas, and you've kind of had to choose one or the other for the solution you're building, or in some cases you have to do both and you end up having to maintain both, copy data back and forth. With Synapse Analytics, we wanted to give you one place for data warehousing and big data analytics all in one service that you don't have to stitch together yourself. And this is where Synapse Analytics now comes in. If we take a look under the hood for Synapse Analytics, you'll see a few things in here. First, you'll see at the very bottom all the different storage layers. So we have the data warehousing storage capabilities, those SQL tables, fully structured, relational, transactional. And contrast that now with the data lake, which is also available to Synapse. Data lake is a great place just to put data, structured, unstructured, semi-structured. You can land your data there, figure out what you're going to do with it. But above those storage layers, you have the full T-SQL engine running massively parallel in the cloud at full scale over petabytes of data. And you also have Spark working over that same data, meaning you can build one set of data artifacts and you can use them both by data scientists in Spark or data engineers in SQL or vice versa. Those same capabilities are available over the same sets of data, no copying now, things in between. Additionally, to build an analytics solution in the cloud, you typically have to stitch together multiple different services. And then you have to orchestrate those and monitor those and manage those and secure those. Synapse brings this together all under one service now. So you have all the integration capabilities. What you used to have to go out and get ADF for separately is now natively part of Synapse. You have those low-code, no-code data prep functionality with data flow, and then the orchestration with pipelines now built directly into Synapse. You have Synapse Studio that acts as a single development environment for all these features. These are now all features of the same product rather than different products that you need to stitch together. All the monitoring comes through in Synapse Studio and in different logs that are available through Synapse. And all this is secured together as if it's one product. You don't have to have a different VNet for your pipelines, a different VNet for your data lake, a different VNet for your data warehouse, and then figure out how to get them all to talk to each other securely. That's now taken care of for you, as these are all features of the same product. So now with all these pieces together, we can build a complete analytics solution in the cloud with just this service. And it's a service now that can suit data scientists and data engineers. So let's look at how we build our complete AI to BI solution in the cloud. Typically, answering business questions involves multiple personas: data engineers, data scientists, business analysts, business users, and they're all kind of throwing the question over to the next person. The business user may ask either BI developer or data engineer a question. They're very familiar with SQL and data warehousing, and they're familiar with the data and the business questions. But sometimes they don't have the data, and they may need to throw that over the fence to now a data scientist or another data engineer who needs to go get the data, prep it, understand it again, throw that data back over the fence, back to the BI developer, and this goes on and on and on, back and forth, until eventually you get an answer back to the business user. How do we make this more of a team sport, more collaborative experience for actually developing solutions, getting answers to questions, making users more self-service on their own? I want to invite Santosh from my team to give an overview and a demo of how Synapse makes this much more of a collaborative team sport where business users, data scientists, data engineers all work together on solving the same problems.
We have a couple of actors who are going to help solve the business questions. We have Josh. Josh is your BI developer. Josh is familiar with SQL. He knows about data warehousing. He has been working with BI tools. And you have Nelly. Nelly is going to play the actor of both your data scientist as well as your data engineer. Nelly is familiar with Python and Scala and Spark ecosystem. She's familiar with working over data which is there in the lake. So let's just try to see how you can answer this question. When the business user is asking, I want to be able to get insights over a customer survey that I sent out. The business user will ask Josh, and Josh first needs to go and find whether this data on the survey exists or not. He will look across the entire data estate that is there. Once he finds the data, he needs to explore the data. He needs to examine it and see if the information that he wants is there in this data. And then if he's unable to find it, for example, here, let's say sentiments over some of their surveys, he needs to start working with Nelly, who is his data scientist and data engineer, in order to add these sentiments. So now let's go over and see what Nelly needs to do. Nelly will be having to find exactly that same file that Josh was looking at. Nelly then needs to decide whether she's going to build or reuse some of the models that will add sentiments to this particular survey comments. And after she does that, before she operationalizes it, what she needs to do is confirm with Josh, is this really the right thing before I operationalize it in my end-to-end pipeline? So let's think about another handoff to Josh. So what Josh needs to do now is look at the analyzed data with the new insights which has been added by Nelly and confirm it's the right thing. This is not just a one-way streak. Generally what happens is there is a feedback loop which keeps on happening between your BI team, your data engineering team, your business users, and only then, once they arrive at the right answers, are they able to go and load the data into the warehouse and be able to operationalize the pipelines, create your deployment strategy and CI/CD strategy. And then Josh can take this data, which is there in his enterprise data warehouse, and build the BI reports to give answers to his business users. This is a very complex process. If you start thinking about Josh living only in the world of business analytics solutions and Nelly living in the world of data science and data lake solutions. Because this is further complicated by having to stitch together all the pieces which are necessary, from security to monitoring to management, because from a customer standpoint, it's an end-to-end analytics solution. Let me show you now in this demo how both Josh and Nelly can work in the same Azure Synapse Analytics workspace to be able to answer this business question. So the first thing I have done is I have created an Azure Synapse Analytics workspace. In this workspace, I have added a dedicated SQL pool, which is my data warehouse. I've called this EDW. I have my serverless SQL pools. and I also have my Apache Spark pool. Then I have gone and added 2 users. As I had said, Josh, who is my BI developer, who is familiar with SQL, and Nelly, who is playing the role of my data scientist and data engineer, who is familiar with Spark. Now let's see the world through the eyes of Josh and Nelly working together and able to answer the business questions. So I'm going to first show when Josh logs into this same workspace, what is his experience. The first thing he needs to do, as we had said, was the ability to find the data that his business user said. The data is a survey that they said, and customer survey. So what Josh can do is, because of the integration of Azure Synapse Analytics with Azure Purview, he can start searching his entire data estate from right here, his Synapse Studio experience. Let us say Josh searches for survey. And here you can see from Purview, he finds a data lake file system which says survey results, and some form of a CSV file which says feedback survey. He clicks into this CSV file. Now again, Josh doesn't know too much about the lake. Josh doesn't know too much about any of the CSV formats or Parquet formats and other formats that's in the lake. He knows SQL. So here are the things Josh can do. Josh can easily look at what is the information which is there in the CSV file. He can see things such as it has votes and name and topics and subjects and comments. Looks interesting. It doesn't have sentiments, but let me look deeper. This is how easy it is for Josh to be able to run serverless SQL queries directly over the lake. Josh basically selects the develop and run, and that's it. Now he is running SQL queries where he is seeing there are different topics such as shipping and fulfillment and praise, and what are the different subjects, as well as what are the comments on top of it, what are the votes that have been given by other users. But what he doesn't see here is what are the sentiments. So now Josh needs to start working with Nelly, who is his data scientist and data engineer. So he tells Nelly, hey, this is that file that I found in the lake. Now let me show you the world and the workspace through the eyes of Nelly. Nelly logs on to the same workspace. And then she searches on Purview for survey, and she's able to get to this exact same file that Josh got to. But Nelly is more familiar with Spark. So what she does is, in the Develop tab, she can open a new notebook. She can load this data into a data frame, or she can create a Spark table right over exactly that same file which is over the lake that Josh was working with. So let's say she creates a Spark table. She's already created this. So let's go look at this table. This table is there in my default Spark database, and this is the table which is called raw survey table. Let's look at the columns of this table. So it has exactly those same columns, which is subject and comments and votes and other things. Now Nelly needs to be able to add a sentiment analytic model in order to get sentiments from the comments field. So she can do this in multiple ways. She can build a model, she can use something existing, or because of the seamless integration of Azure Synapse Analytics with cognitive services, she can choose one of the 2 cognitive services models which are here. She can do anomaly detection or text analytics. She chooses text analytics and goes through a very simple wizard. And this low-code, no-code wizard enables her to create a notebook. And this notebook is all she needs to run. She's already run this notebook, so I'll walk you through it. She's able to import some libraries. She's able to run sentiments over the text comments, and then she's able to display the results. Let's look at the results which she sees. She's able to see what are the comments, what are the sentiments. You can see some of these comments have mixed sentiments. Why these have mixed sentiments is because the cognitive services sentiment analytics model breaks the comments into sentences and says what sentence is positive, negative, or neutral. And now she's able to say, wow, this makes sense. This is exactly what I need. I need to now collaborate back with Josh. So I'm just going to write this results back into the lake, and I'm going to write it as a Spark table. And that's all Nelly does, a few lines of code. And once she does this, now she has created this new Spark table, which has data in the lake. And this table has a few additional columns. One of these columns is sentiments, and this is what Josh was looking for. She tells Josh that there is a Spark table that she has created. Now Josh, who is our BI developer familiar with SQL, logs into his workspace. And in his workspace, what he sees is the Spark tables. He's able to open the Spark database, look at all the Spark tables, and he finds a Spark table, which is sentiment table. Josh doesn't know Python, Josh doesn't know Scala, he only knows SQL. But he's able to right-click this table and query this Spark table with SQL. What Josh has just done right now is he's able to work with what his data scientists are familiar with, the same data definition, and be able to get the results. And here, as you can see, Josh is able to see, wow, I've got my comments, which are, and my sentiments, which is exactly what I need. I just need to operationalize this so I can create my BI report. So that is the next handoff to Nelly. And Nelly, now that she knows that Josh has everything that he needs in the lake, has to load the data to the warehouse. For doing this, all Nelly has to do is go back to the same notebook and using the built-in Spark to SQL connector, write a few lines of code to read data from the Spark table and write data to Synapse SQL, the dedicated SQL pool, which is the EDW, and create a table in there. And now for her to operationalize it, it is as easy for her as clicking this button and saying that I want to operationalize this in an existing pipeline. Once she does this in an existing pipeline, she just has to say when she has to run her notebook in the pipeline. And then she can add triggers, either event-driven triggers or time-driven triggers. All of this is also backed by source control using GitHub in this case, so she can do her entire CI/CD pipeline. And that's it. That's how easy it is for Nelly to be able to operationalize the data which she found in the lake and be able to write it to the data warehouse, create pipelines, create CI/CD pipelines after this. Now Josh is able to get this exact same data in his enterprise data warehouse. He's able to go and see what are the new tables that Nelly added. In this case, it is the sentiments table that Nelly added. He can query this table, or what he wants to do is create a BI report after this. So because of the built-in integration of Synapse and Power BI, he can easily go and connect to the Power BI workspace, link it to the Synapse workspace, and is able to see all the data sets, Power BI data sets, and start creating this BI report right here in the Synapse experience. For example, here what he's going to do is be able to add to an existing report his sentiment information. And once he adds all of the sentiment information, all he needs to do is click on File Save, and it's back to the business user. The business user can go to Power BI, and in Power BI is able to see the end result of this end-to-end analytics that Josh and Nelly had to work together to provide to him. So here is an example. The business user is able to see what are all the topics and the sentiments across the topics. Let's take a topic like shipping. He's able to click on shipping because it says there is mixed reviews, and is able to see why it is a mixed review. You have a customer who is very disappointed in the way things were packed. This customer has always been satisfied with the service and would trust that you would make this right. So just by being able to learn about this so easily, now your business user can know what are the changes that need to be made to your shipping system in order to retain the customer and make them happy. As you saw, what Azure Synapse Analytics enabled Josh and Nelly to do was make analytics a collaborative team sport. It enabled your BI developers and your data scientists and your data engineers to work together, not as an or, but an and. How data science and business analytics works together with the tools that they are used to using over data, whether it's in the lake or data which is in the warehouse. And all of this is surrounded by the ability to be enterprise ready across the entire solution, whether having your managed VNets capabilities or using data encryption with customer managed keys, your unified monitoring, management, deployment, and CI/CD across the entire solution.
Thanks, Santosh. Now let's take a look at Synapse Link. You saw Synapse Link in the video. In particular, you saw Synapse Link for Cosmos DB. Now, Synapse Link is meant to feel like you're not doing any ETL at all. You're just connecting to the raw data source. Now, why don't we actually just connect to the raw data source? Sometimes connecting to the raw data source may not be the most performant, or in some cases, especially when you're doing something operational on that data source, doing analytical queries on your raw data source at the same time you're trying to do operations and run an application on top of it, they can start to conflict with each other, and that can start to cause problems for both the application trying to run and the queries trying to be run. So Synapse Link tries to give you the best of both worlds, where you can connect directly to the data source, and yeah, there might be data movement happening under the covers, but you don't have to worry about that as the user. It feels like you're just connecting directly to it, and everything just kind of works. We optimize the structure of the data under the covers, and we make sure it's not impacting those operational queries that might be happening in the database. So let's actually look at Synapse Link for Cosmos DB, which is what you saw. There's a one-click enablement to actually go turn this on in Cosmos DB. And once that's done, you have that transactional store in Cosmos DB, and instead of us querying that directly, we actually go and move that data into what they call an analytical store there, where it's column-oriented, it's ready for analytical queries, it's designed to be queried. And then we connect that up to Synapse, to your Synapse workspace, and we query that data directly from there. Now, since this is now a duplicate of the data, you don't have to worry about it impacting the performance on your analytical queries. But also, you don't have to worry about making the duplication of the data yourself and managing that duplication. So as far as you're concerned, it's almost like an index that's kind of built on top of the data. And that index, will update, very, very quickly in near real time. So you're able to do near real-time operations on top of the data directly without the need for you to do any kind of managed data movement or anything like that. Now, this was Cosmos DB. Let's take a look now what this means for business applications. So if you're a user of Dynamics 365 or Power Apps, you're familiar with Dataverse. Dataverse is the common store for Microsoft Business application data. So all your let's say your Dynamics CRM data is in here, your Power Apps data in here. Much of your other Dynamics application data is going to be in here. Now, there's a gold mine of information in there, but you need to be able to get to it. So in the past, we've made you kind of export the data to the lake, and then once you got in the lake, you had to try to figure out what to do with it. Usually you try to then put it into something like SQL, or you try to put it into Spark. And it's been very complicated in the past to do this. A lot of manual steps. So we sought out with Synapse Link for Dataverse to try to remove all those manual steps. So what we did now is we kind of broke down those walls, broke down that silo. And just as easy as to do for Cosmos DB, you just turn it on for Synapse, and basically all the data you have now in Dataverse is available within a Synapse workspace, and you can use it with Synapse SQL, so you can run T-SQL queries directly against it, or you can do it in Synapse Spark, or even pipelines if you're going to move ETL and transform that data. Just really easy. So let me show you this really quick with a demo for Synapse Link for Dataverse. So here we are in the Power Apps portal. I can enable Synapse Link for Dataverse with just a few clicks. First, I can go over to Data, and I can find Azure Synapse Link. This used to be called Export to Data Lake, because it would export data directly to an ADLS account that you chose, which it still continues to do, and you can still export directly to ADLS, but now there's an additional option in there that lets you connect it up to Synapse. I'll say New Synapse Link Data Lake. And here's that additional option we were talking about here. I can connect this to an Azure Synapse workspace. Now, the workspace and the storage account that you're going to export data to need to be in the same location as your Dataverse environment. So I'm going to pick my subscription, my resource group, and this will actually pull from Azure anything I have access to. So I'll pick my storage account. These are storage accounts that are linked to that workspace. Next, I pick the tables I want. So I'll take account, we'll take organization, we'll take promotion maybe. Oops. I'll take activity, a couple of these other ones. I can say save. And that's it. This will go set up Synapse Link for Dataverse in that workspace, and it'll start replicating the data continuously out into the data lake. What this means is anytime data changes in let's say it's Dynamics CRM or anywhere in Dataverse, anytime that data changes, within a few seconds usually it'll be available for you within use in Synapse or in the data lake. So now data starts to flow in to the lake, and I can open up the Synapse portal. I can do that by just clicking on the link we just made and saying go to Synapse portal, or I can just actually have the portal open. And see if I refresh my databases here. We'll now see a new database created for Dataverse. And that's my Dataverse environment. I can open it up. We can expand the tables. I can see the tables that I've added. Now, it will take, depending on the size of your tables, it may take a few minutes for the data to initially sync at first, but let's see. The account table here is pretty big. I can actually go ahead and see if I can query it right away. So I'll right-click on that table. This will show me all the different things I can do with it. I'm going to open up a new SQL query with it. I'll just do a select top 100, and this is going against data that, this is going against the SQL serverless endpoint. So it's going to run that query, again, using full T-SQL. I can use any SQL client on here, not just Synapse Studio. I can open this in Power BI, Excel, Tableau, whatever I want. I can connect to it like it's a normal SQL database. We'll just run the top query here. Let's give ourselves a little bit more room. Yep, you see results come back. And we only returned a few rows, top 100, but you can now write any query against this data that you know how to express in SQL, and it'll run directly over the data. As soon as that data changes in the lake, it immediately picks up those changes. There's no ETL or anything required by you to manage here. And this doesn't just work for Spark. It works, this doesn't just work for SQL. It works throughout the entire Synapse platform. So I showed you here, I can run a machine learning model directly on this. Or I can just go and say, all right, let's load to a data frame in a notebook. And I can write natively now, I can write against this data as if it were a Hive table, because it is a Hive table. It shows up as a Hive table. I can use Python here. I can switch this over if I want to SQL. I want to use Spark SQL. But again, I can use anything of my choosing here. And just like SQL. And I can pick my Spark pool and just go ahead and run it. Now, if you're running this on Spark for the first time, it might take your Spark cluster a minute or two to start up. But once it does that, it'll run right away. So this makes it really easy to bring in those different ML jobs. Or just use that full power of Spark and to read this data and combine it with some massive data if you need to. And there you have it. Results are returned directly from Spark. Finally, if you want to combine this data with other data, again at large scale or any scale, Spark's one way of doing it, low code, no code, with a high code option, sorry. And obviously you can do things with SQL if you want. But also there, if you're a fan of using ADF data flows and orchestration pipelines, those are built directly into Synapse. And starting very recently, those are also now natively able to work with these databases that we just created here from Dataverse. So if I actually come in and go over to the Develop Hub here, I can say create a new data flow. Now in the past, I've had to go look at the lake itself and find the CDM files and try to parse these JSON files and understand what the data is, what it means. Here I can just access it like it's a database. I can come in, and now I have this workspace DB, and this corresponds to any of the databases that are in my workspace. And I click on that, I can see the Dataverse database that was created for us. And then I can see tables that are in it. I'll select account. Immediately I can start to see things like schema, because the schema actually comes along with the data. The metadata about that data has been provided to Synapse from Dataverse in the form of that database. And this is not a SQL database or a Spark database. It's a Synapse database, and a Synapse database can be used across SQL, Spark, or pipelines like this, just natively. Here you can see the different column schema. And I can also go ahead and start previewing the data. And now I can start prepping and transforming this data using all the different no-code, low-code power of Dataflow. In the end, Dataflow actually compiles this down and actually runs it in Scala on top of Spark, so it can run at pretty massive scale. And even if your Dataverse data isn't that big, you may be combining it with other data that tends to be big, and this will really give you that power to bring that data together. So that was Synapse Link for Dataverse. You saw how with just a few clicks we're able to actually make all that data that's available for you in Dataverse available to Synapse in near real time. And then you can use it with all aspects of Synapse. You can use it with those data flow capabilities which I showed at the end there. You can run it you can run Spark jobs directly on top of it, including machine learning. You can use that raw power Spark to combine it with other data. And you can use it with T-SQL and any T-SQL client that Synapse supports. So there are really a lot of possibilities of how to use that power that comes from those Synapse compute engines on top of that same data. I hope you found this presentation useful. If you want to learn more about Azure Synapse, there are a few resources you can look at. Also, we're running promotion now where there are some free quantities where you can get started for free and try it out. In addition to just the normal Azure trials. So I put all the links below here, and please enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.